I've been told many times that there's no such thing as good PR or bad PR, right? All PR is PR, marketing's marketing. But today we're going to take you through a journey of Liana Zavo, who also, by the way, cares deeply about women. You know I do in terms of women business owners. And so we're going to dive into her story, where she's at, and exactly how PR can affect you and be a positive to you. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Story. I'm excited to get into the details.
Yes, absolutely. But let's give everyone a little background about you, where you came from and how the hell you got into PR. Let's start with that.
I think it's just my grit, my resilience, and not taking no for an answer. That is exactly what my whole life was about. From a young age, I've always been into sports. I think that in itself just always made me have this competitive edge to me. I love basketball, I love ice skating, and falling down and coming back up like nothing happened and making sure I finish what I started. I think that in itself are the soft skills that entrepreneurs should have. And it's not about the college degrees. It's great to have them. I'm a college dropout. Not that I am saying that education is not important, but it's just that I had to drop out because I got married when I was 18. I had my son at 19. I was an excellent student in high school. I even was now recognized as who's who among top high school students in America. I had it. I had excellence in education. Learning was my thing, but life had its other plans for me, and so I had to detour and sway from my dreams. My grandmother was a journalist in Russia, so I have that journalism in me. I have storytelling ingrained in me. I love that side, and that's why I wanted to pursue communications. But my mother didn't want me to pursue it because she saw her mother was traveling all the time, so she wanted me to find something more safe and secure. So do speech pathology. It's close. Or go become a doctor. And so I loved that adventure. I wanted to do something that would set my heart on fire. And so it took a long time to get to where I am today. These obstacles and hurdles and adversities I had to go through in order for me to become the successful PR expert that I am today. So that's just a little story of how I started.
Yeah. So talk us through getting married at 18, having a kid at 19, but being a top athlete, right? I played collegiate football, so going at that top degree as an athlete, you are always like grinding, working, and have goals and aspirations. Talk us through how life happens, right? So talk us through that kind of couple year period coming out of being like such a top athlete to now married with a kid, and what does that mean for you in your career and your future?
When you're athletic and you're always finding ways to lead a team, it's that leadership skills that you have, right? And then when you fall into a marriage, it's like, okay, well, I can't really have a voice. I can't have a say. I got married to a partner who was very old school and conservative in many ways. And so it was his way. And everything that I learned in my years of being independent, I'm a very independent soul. And so I love to lead people, hence why I'm a great entrepreneur and leading my company. And so I lost that for a little bit. I lost that power to have a voice to say, you know what, I think this is how you should go about it. Like when you throw hoops, right? And you shoot ball, like, that you have a 2 pointer, you have a 3 pointer, that's the angle you should be going at. So I have that side to me where I love to be very strategic, and I want my voice to be heard. I want you to listen because I know the way to go about this. So when I got married, obviously all of that got shut down. That side of me, I had to kind of cater and serve and be a good housewife in a way. But I went to college at the same time, and I did banking. I was a teller. I did a lot. I had to. But that personality, when I growing up being very athletic, just helped me through tough times because I know that even if I fall down, I get knocked down on my face, I get hit in my nose a lot of times by a 6 foot guy that I was playing against. I would have to just get up and have that tomboy side to me, which helped me a lot in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. How much did this, like, in our society, it's always like you're supposed to, grow up, go to school, go to college, get married, have a kid, have a career, blah, 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 very like rigid things.
Yeah.
How much did that play into you early on, and how has that mindset shifted now?
Story, I remember growing up and I had to take care of my sister. My sister, 4 year difference. And I remember I was 5 years old. She's one. I grew up in Russia. And so when we immigrated to Vienna, Austria, it was like, you got to take care of your sister. It's always a responsibility. You got to do this. You got to take care. I don't even remember playing with toys, to be honest with you, right? Maybe I had like a little, small little toy. Maybe it was like a Ninja Turtle or something, but it wasn't like a Barbie doll. And so that time, of what was ingrained in me is like, you got to take care. You have to take care of the household. You have to make sure you're helping out your parents. But now it's like I'm free to revisit my childhood. I want to dive into who I am and relive that inner child that I have in me that I kind of neglected because I was always on the go, 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 taking care of my kid. Started off with my sister, and that never stopped until recently. I would say maybe 8 to 10 years, where I said, you know what, I need to just rediscover who I am. Who is Liana? How can I find my inner child and be connected to that and not be always on the go, go, go? Just let it go.
How tough is it to do that? Like well, I'm so happy that you found out. Like you were like, you know what, I need to take a step back and kind of figure myself out. But I think a lot of women, specifically in minorities, but mainly women, go through this transition period at some point in their life. I believe that I've seen both my experience and what I've read is the fact that like they go through this period of time. Some don't go and it goes very quickly and then they're back into their normal cycle of whatever they were, or others like you go, hey, I'm going to take the time. Talk to me about like how long do you think it took you to truly recognize, hey, I need to go get my inner child out, and now who you are is truly who you are? How long did it take you to go from not being who you are to figuring it out to now this is who Leanne is, like this is who I am?
Oh my God, it took a long time. I think I'm still finding out. I think I'm still rediscovering myself. It's like an evolution, right? But I think when I really started becoming more at ease is when I started my company. The very first company I started was at 23 years old. I had a styling concierge firm. And that was also, I was on the go. I had the hustle mentality. And that's how I got my autoimmune disease at 25, because I was so just out there trying to grind. And it took a while. So you would think getting married at 18, having this very first firm that I established my company at 23, and now at 38, I would say a good 20 years to understand, but I don't look my age, which is a bonus. I can say that for myself. I do a lot to biohack myself. I do a lot to just, not to age gracefully, right? You need to understand, in order for you to find your inner child, you have to biohack yourself. And I'm very in tune with that side of me as well. I had to find ways to meditate. And so if I have to tell you how long it took, I would say to 18, getting married, to 20 years, to really honing in. Like now I am so, so confident. And I think it's just going to get better from here.
I think it's a really important piece what you talked about. 20 years. It might be 10 for others, 5, 30. Some of us may be always on that journey. I think we all are at some point, some degree. It's very important for everyone that's listening to understand that, like, where you're at right now and where you want to be, there is no specific time frame, right? Just because you see it in social media and all the stuff that you have the people who have overnight fame or overnight success or success in 3 years, 5 years, or whatever, your path is truly your path, whatever that may be. And if you own that path becomes more friendly. It becomes part of your lifestyle. There isn't this like thing holding over your head and being like, I need to be at X by 10-year anniversary and the 15-year anniversary. If you live life based upon your own path and your own journey, that's where I think you relax. That's where your inner child comes out. That's where you stop worrying and caring so much about the outside and just about you. So I appreciate you talking about that. So let's see. You launched a company at 23. You're currently 38. Where did the PR come from? Because, one side to the other, those aren't the same. Like those aren't in the same industry. So what happened in that time frame?
I'll be honest with you. It's not the same industry, but storytelling is there. When I was a personal stylist, I had to make sure that what you wear is your first impression and your last impression. What you say is the first impression and your last impression, right? It's very important. It has a lot of similarity. And so I started telling stories by what you wore. Galas, events, charities. Think about it. When you step into a room, you have to make sure you look like an authority. You have to have that presence about you. If you're, and I worked with top tier hotels in the city. So you can imagine the guests that came there from all over the world, and they would attend galas and charity events. And so telling their story, and it's very therapeutic, going shopping with them and making sure that they feel the confidence in presenting themselves. So that was my very first step in introduction to storytelling through what you wear. And I have to tell you, personal branding is about the image as well. The way you present yourself is one side of your story. And so it's not really different. All I'm doing now is I have fostered so many relationship with journalists that I know what angle to use in order to create a buzz around your story, right? So I had to hone in on those skills. And how it started was I was discovered. Her name was Marella Matan. She discovered me. I was working with a client at Bergdorf Goodman in New York City, and she saw something in me. She saw how I was styling my other client, and she wanted me to style her as well for her event. And so it came to be that she owned a skincare line, and she wanted me to become her consultant for her line. She wanted me to be that visionary. And that was everything I wanted, because I wanted someone to believe in me. She introduced me to her PR firm. And at that time, my family was expanding from Queens, New York to Manhattan to open up more restaurants. I come from the hospitality industry. So we have a lot of restaurants. And I knew that project is coming about in New York City, I knew that we needed PR for the restaurant. And at that time, at the same time that I already have my concierge firm, I'm already applying to different PR firms. Now I get rejected from all 5 of them because of one thing. Do you have a college degree? No, I don't. But don't you look at my soft skills? I'm ambitious. I'm hungry. I got a network of people. I have high net worth individuals. Can we find leverage here? Is it all about that? I'm like, look, I can come in as a consultant. I don't need to be a publicist. Just no, it's all about, it has to be like you need to have a college degree. And so if it's not this way, for me, if I can't knock on this door, I make sure I'll knock on another door, and that door will open for me. You have to knock on doors, because otherwise, you can't just be stuck with that answer. I don't take no for an answer. And so when Marella Matan introduced me to this PR firm, I gave them an ultimatum. I said, look, I will have my restaurant. It's going to open up in a couple of months. And if you hire me as your consultant, not only am I going to be consulting for Marella, but your consultant for your PR firm, then I will bring on my restaurant, Zavo, as the very first client, and then I will add many more to that. And so, you know what, they agreed. They didn't see why not, and they were open-minded about it. So that's the relationship I started building, and I learned everything I needed to know from that PR firm
How long were you with them?
for about a year and a half.
About a year and a half, and then you launched your own.
Yes.
What made you transition from working for someone to working for yourself?
I never worked for them. Never. I was a consultant, freelance. I made my own hours. I got paid out commission. I got paid out on referrals. I never worked for them. It wasn't like set hours. I came in as a freelance, as a contractor, and then I decided, I said to myself, I want to be recognized for myself, from my own name. I have a name. The restaurant Zavo is my last name. So I already was building out my brand, right? And so I said, okay, well, I'm a very good brand strategist. So I said, if I'm already doing it, I'm gonna go all in. My people need to know the household name in New York City. And by the way, we had to shut down, unfortunately, due to COVID, but the name still stands there. If you pass by 60th and 3rd across street from Bloomingdale's, I'm not sure, I don't know how familiar you are with New York City, but the name still stands. After so many years, we were attached to Dylan's Candy Shop, and Dylan's Candy Shop that was the landmark for them. So we were recognized, and I doubled down on my name. I said, look, this is what I need to do, because I have a vision for myself. I want to go big, and I never stopped. So that PR firm that I work for is only here in New York City. I went global. I took my company 4 years ago. I'm in 12 countries now. Because I was born in Russia, because I immigrated to Vienna, Austria with my family, I love the global scale. I love working with founders from all over the world. Yes, it's challenging because there's so many different ways, we need to find ways to work together, cultures and lifestyle. But at the end of the day, I just love bridging the gap for founders, global founders in the American market, and giving them recognition and the credibility that they deserve.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Thank
It's
you.
one of those, I guess everyone calls it like the American dream, and that's essentially what you're living, which is amazing. So
Thank you.
let's dive into PR, right? From a personal brand perspective, a businessman brand perspective, if someone only has ever heard of PR because of, your high celebrities or your giant brands and stuff like that, and they never think it's for them or their business, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I want to dispel that myth. That is something everyone needs PR. Whether you are a small company, right? I work with small to mid-sized companies. There are a few companies that are on a larger scale, but for me, I like to represent the face behind the brand. It's important. It's not for a large company. PR is the most cost-effective promotional tool out there. If you think about it, it's first of all, it's underrated and it's an underdog. What PR can do for you, marketing and advertising will never do for you. And I'll tell you why. If you hire someone to do advertising for you, you know that they put your face in front of a billboard or in back of the bus, and you know you paid for that. Marketing, yes, there's a little storytelling going on, but you know you also paid for that in order to do marketing. But for PR, you can't directly pay a journalists to write about you. You can't pay directly a TV station to get you on air. So you come to a publicist and say, look, I'm ready. I'm a business leader. I'm a thought leader, and I want to expand my brand awareness. Can you get me on TV? And you work with a publicist, and we work on an angle because not every journalist will take you on. We need to find an angle that makes you, it creates a buzz, that makes you relevant. And so I would say that it's better for those smaller companies. I like to work with smaller and organizations that actually I can work with the face behind the brand, like you, for example. I like to work with someone who's one-on-one, who has the attention for me, so that we can craft your narrative and it's compelling. And so that when you present yourself as a thought leader, you get more credibility because you've been vetted by a third party. So CBS News wants to interview you because you are an expert in your industry and they want to learn more about you. And so when you give your expert advice, and think about it, that in itself is major credibility. And when you get Google indexed, right, that's already SEO embedded. So you don't need an SEO agency. Marketing, that's already organic marketing because you're going to be trending on Google. So you take that and then you distribute that on all the social media platforms. So PR is truly what gives you that push to your credibility. And people should know that, because if you're not being talked about by third party, like Forbes, for example, like I write for Forbes, I'm a Forbes contributor. And if you are not being vetted and your story is not being fact checked, you can say anything you want, but journalism and PR, we fact check and make sure that what you're saying stays true to your company.
So talk to me about how, I know how some PR works, but like others out there would say, well, it's just an expense for someone to, submit my name into, a journalist or whatever. But there are PR firms out there that deal with pay to play. For those that don't know what the hell that means, is to get that segment, to get that article, you're paying for that, but also you're paying a publicist. Where does your company stand in terms of the pay to play, but also like making sure that you get results for your business owners? Because ultimately that's what we care about, right? Like if I'm going to give you money, I want to see results. How do you deal with that kind of misnomer or that negative feel for your industry?
At times when you have to pay to play in the beginning, I won't say it's the worst thing to do. Is it the best thing to do? No, it's not. It's not the best because you know that you want the authenticity to be there. I do not like to for someone to pay to play for a journal. Like, you pay me as a publicist so that I can get you into those relationships that I have. But if you don't have a publicist and you're doing pay to play, I won't look at it as a credibility, because you can just pay and to get your story out there. It needs to really hone in and make sense with that journalist to take on your story. So for me, that does not show much credibility. I would not be against it 100%, because you know what? people think that a publicist is too much money, but it's not. You're actually wasting so much more money on pay to play when you have a publicist in your corner who can actually guide you and give you more. First of all, when you hire publicists, you get strategic partners, you get the real deal, and you have those journalists that the firm is already has a relationship with. When you're just, there's a lot of LinkedIn too, when they send messages, oh, would you like to be featured here, oh, just pay us this. But that in itself does not show your credibility. They approach everyone. But when you're really recognized for your work, for who you are, that feels very special. You know what? I was recognized by this publication. Can you imagine? Like, out of all of them, out of all the founders, I was handpicked. I was an editor's pick. So that is very significant. That is very unique. And I think that people should stop doing the pay for their play type of thing, but actually go the traditional route and make sure that the publicist reaches out on behalf of you, or you can reach out yourself. Reach out to a publication, reach out to a journalist that says, look, this is my story. Would you like to pick my story? Sometimes that can work as well. But if you have the time and patience, you can do it. But if you're running a big company, nobody has time for that. That's why they have to delegate, and you have to delegate with the right team.
How do you coach women or minorities? Because a lot of us have this where we don't want to be selfish, right? Putting myself out there in terms of getting publicity somewhere, winning an award, whatever, feels kind of like, right? Like I'm not doing it for that purpose. I get that way too, right? I'm not doing what I do every day for me. I'm doing it for the greater good of people. It just so happens to be what my skill set lies. How do you coach your clients in regards to that, to get them to where they are confident to put themselves out there? Because once you start changing your brand that way, that's when great things happen. It's all of those other ones that are, their voices are behind the scenes. They're a little, I don't know if it's scared or whatever the definition is we want to use, but how do you coach, specifically those women to move forward and to really put themselves out there and be comfortable with it?
I like how you say coach, because as a publicist, I do a lot of that, and I mentor and I coach and I instill that confidence in you. And that's the 80% mindset that comes in, right? Because if it doesn't stem from your mind and you're not confident, you can't really execute on your narrative. It has to come. And that's why I wrote my book as well, Be Epic. And the Be Epic method is the 80% mindset and 20% is the practice. And it's sold on Amazon, by the way. I'm an Amazon published author, which I'm very proud of. And what I developed was, and it's been tested. So 3,500, when you said coaching and mentoring, I've mentored over 3,500 female executives and their students and college students. All in all, 500 people, where this method has been proven and tested that it works, from having the belief. It's a one-word acronym for Be Epic, having the belief, becoming empowered. When you have the belief, you can then find your core identity, right? Your core identity, who you are, comes from the belief. But if you don't believe who you are, if you think your story won't matter, then anything you say is not going to work in your favor. And so I work on that. I would say those 5 methodologies, and then we go and actually start compiling your narrative. It's so important to have control of your narrative and finding that. Be epic. So B is for belief, E is for empowerment, P is for personal satisfaction, which leads to personal development, which then leads to public relations mastery. Then I, comes in from the inner voice, the inner development, and an influential. When you have the inner voice guiding you, then you can build those influential relationships. And then the C is consistency, right? If you're not consistent in your brand, if you're not consistent and coming out of your comfort zone, you have to get out of that comfort zone. In order to do that, you have to be consistent. And so that is what I teach. And it's been really incredible journey for them. And they love how I hone in on that 80% mindset in order for them to really, truly be successful.
What does it look like when someone comes aboard and they're looking for results? What is kind of like the time frame? Obviously, every person's different, every industry is different. So I'm not going to make you quote that, but I'm going to say, like, if someone came aboard, what's onboarding look like? What's the process look like to them? And then what are some expectations that they should have of having a publicist, specifically you, in regards to being out there and performing?
Yeah, so the onboarding process is very simple. We have a couple of questions for you to answer to understand what your mission is, why you even are motivated to hire a PR agency, and make them understand that we are not we're not going to help you with marketing. That is not our job, right? We have to make sure that it's clear we're not marketers, but we're publicists. And then we have a consultation, a one-on-one, after they have these onboarding questions that they filled out. And we make sure that we're on the same page as well. Delivering. We are so, when I tell you that I over deliver, I have to over deliver to my clients because that's my reputation. And it's not about, just taking their money and saying, I'll deliver when I can deliver, because with PR firms, and when I hired the PR firm for my restaurant Zavo, I saw how they worked, right? It was great overall, but they didn't deliver every month. The deliverables weren't there. And I said to myself, we're paying a substantial amount of money, and I need to find a way that deliverables will be there. We can't just say that, well, we pitched to a journalist and it's taking a lot of time, right? I can't operate that way. It's very frustrating because as a founder, when you hire me as a publicist and a PR firm, you want to make sure that we're on top of your story. We're always finding a way to generate awareness and getting the public involved, right? And so whether it be podcasting, TV, whether it be anything else, I have to make sure every month there are deliverables. And so with a lot of other firms, they would say, we just pitched to the journalist, it's taking time by the time they get back. But listen, by the time they get back, you can do something else for me. Create buzz somehow else, or take me into your studio, create a personal branding video, a professional branding video that speaks for itself as well. That creates buzz. So for me, it's very important to always be on that momentum, catch that momentum, and not just say, what, well, we're just waiting to hear news back. For me, it's important that I cover all facets of PR. It's not just publications, it's also on video as well. Video is so important. If you're not doing short videos, if you're not doing any content creation, you're going to fall off the track. You're going to fall off the grid. So you have to make sure that while we're waiting for the publications, we have to get you in front of the camera and start telling your story that way.
Yeah. And from a marketing perspective, everything we talk about perspective, you got to get in front of the camera. Right. And yes, it's going to be shitty when you first start. It's going to be uncomfortable. But, as former athletes, you keep doing it, you're going to get better, then you're going to get good, and then you'll see the limelight after that. So I love that push for it. You might not say you talk about marketing or it's your role, but like that was pure genius. Go do content creation. Make sure you're doing some marketing, because one, it's relatively easy and free for you to do as a business owner. And it really does not take that much time once you understand how the hell to do it correctly. So definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
As we get towards the end of this, we always want to ask a couple of questions, okay? First one is, what was your first money memory?
First money memory was my styling concierge firm. That was when working with these amazing top tier hotels, that in itself was incredible. I would go shopping with them 5-6 hours, and the hotel would pay me $350 an hour. And then on top of that, you would get commission from from wherever store you're selling it from. So that was like, wow. I come from a very successful family, but I never thought of, being dependent on them. Always fun. The journey was so much fun for me. I said, I got to go and find a way to make that money on my own. I want to be proud of it. My son is looking up to me. I want to make sure that he's not going to just say like, hey, mom, you just kind of, married off maybe to a rich man. Nothing wrong with that, but that's my thing. I just like to make that on my own. And so that very first memory was when I styled a woman for 5 hours straight, got my $350 an hour, and then got a crazy amount of incentive from Berkeley Goodman. So you can do the math yourself.
Where has that memory taken you now? Like, if you, obviously we just reflected back on that memory, but tune into who you are today. How much of that memory is reflected on your day-to-day work now?
It's interesting because I just had this whole video production I did with my client yesterday, and she was asking me, so tell me, is this a better outfit or this one? Which outfit should I go with? So she would ask me for my opinion, because obviously this is how I started telling stories through clothing, right? And because to be on camera, and I said, look, no, this does not go well. It's a little too stuffy. It's oversaturated. Let's go a little more simple, make the shoe pop, So for me, fixing her hair, doing this. So for me, it's like, I have it all. Like, you come to me and I make sure that I take care of you. And if I even have to do your hair on set, I'll blow dry it as well. That's what it takes, right? You got to do it all sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. What is one thing you want to leave all the listeners with that they could now like implement today to take that next step forward tomorrow? Because we all know that we all feel alone at some point in our journey, and we're not really alone, but there's a lot of us out there to help you. So what is one thing you can give them today, right now, that they'll be able to take that next step forward?
To founders, correct? To business thought leaders, I would say that don't be afraid to share your story, no matter how ugly it can be, how successful, the challenges you had to overcome. Speak your truth. Authenticity is what people want to hear. Authenticity shines. Don't be superficial. Nobody cares about what bag you bought. We care about what can you teach us? What value do you bring to your audience? At the end of the day, it's all about bringing value, right? And the reason why business thought leaders have to be also content creators is because the culture has changed. We're in a culture of bringing immense value. So it's not about, yes, I run a multi-million dollar company. Great. Okay, but I've never heard you speak. I've never heard you, give me expert advice, no insights. Start speaking up. Create a video, start a podcast, or get on a podcast. Do whatever it is so you can be heard, you can be seen. If you can't hire a publicist right away, start small, but eventually you'll need a publicist.
I love it. I love it. And as always, everybody, reach out to us, right? Like, share, do all that crap for the algorithm, subscribe. That's fine. We don't care about the algorithm. We care about you. And the only way that we can help you is if you reach out, communicate to us, right? I can't get my clients. You can get your clients unless someone has reached out at some point. So reach out to us, ask us questions. Also, that allows us to create more content that is directed towards you. But if we don't know what you need, we can't help you. So make sure you do all of that. Obviously, go get her book. We'll have all of that stuff somewhere around. I don't know. I'm not the editor. It'll be in the description somewhere. Go get the book. If you need a publicist, she is readily available for you. And like always, like I always say, you're not alone. There are a lot of us out here to help you. Okay. So don't think you're alone. There's a lot of resources for you. Why don't you come talk to us? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.